Okay, so that's national ideas. Domestic policies, these are another way of customizing your country on a very large macro scale. So we have centralization versus decentralization, aristocracy versus plutocracy. These are basically polar opposites, as you can see, land versus naval. Some of them, you're going to want to go all the way to 1. So you can see, like right now, I'm at 0 here. It's like not towards centralization or decentralization. I'm more aristocratic, so my current position is -2. So I'm more aristocratic than plutocracy. Plutocracy is basically like egalitarian society, one run by people rather than like the middle class rather than that of the aristocracy. By businessmen, you could say. Middle class merchants and things like that. Serfdom, so we're actually more free subjects than serfdom. And so all of these give us different benefits. You're always going to want to become more centralized because those give you just a lot of positives. There's only one negative, so maximum war exhaustion +2. But decentralization is only negatives. Aristocracy gives us some positives, but plutocracy, in my opinion, is better if you want to play a more merchant game, while aristocracy, in fact, we're going to perhaps go more aristocracy. They give us more diplomats, but they help us with the regiment costs. Regiments are like our cannons, horse, and foot soldiers. They'll decrease the cost of that, and they help our leaders, our generals, and I'll talk about generals later. So aristocracy is good if you're going to be playing a very military-minded game. Again, serfdom versus free subjects. Free subjects is always the way to go. Serfdom doesn't really have that great advantages to it. Just the cost is greatly diminished, but you're paying a lot more for technology and your morale is lowered. By the way, when I hover over this, this means at 100% towards serfdom or 100% towards aristocracy. Right now, if I hover over where the marker is, I can see it's at position -2, so my yearly diplomats is only increased by 1.2. But if I increase it a bit further, they'll get closer to that maximum of 3. So maybe 1.4, I suspect, or 1.5, something like that. So it'll increase or decrease depending. So remember, when I hover over this, this is the maximum it can get at one side or the other. So going down, so free subjects is usually always better. At the beginning, maybe you want larger army, so serfdom is better. Innovative is always better than narrow-minded, just because once you get up all the way to the top of innovative, technology cost is subtracted by 15, but your papal influence really suffers. So it's helpful to be narrow-minded, at least at the beginning of the game, when the papacy is still strong, and also you get a lot of benefits for it. So stability cost modifier is lower, yearly missionaries increases, war exhaustion subtracted, spy defense increase, and also especially yearly papal influence is increased by 15%. Right now we're set at this because we're +2 towards narrow-minded. So for a lot of reasons, narrow-minded is actually pretty good for the beginning of the game, but later on it's better to go innovative, lest you fall behind in techs. Also, as just a tip, if you really want to become Lutheran or have the Protestant Reformation happen near you or in your own country, you should be as innovative as you can, and it'll happen where you're at. But also, as you get very far up in innovative, you might have different heresies popping up. So there are advantages and disadvantages, obviously. Mercantilism and free trade is really up to you again. Like I would say, aristocracy versus plutocracy. It really depends on if you want to play. It really depends on if you want to play a more like a non-trading game versus a trading game. Mercantilism. If I have a lot of centers of trades, which I do not, I only have one, then you should go all the way to mercantilism. Because then I get merchant compete chance from owned provinces plus 125%, which basically means in all my center of trades, I can go all the way to the top. I get a monopoly in them. For example, when I was playing as the Ottoman Empire, I had very little chance. My merchants had very little chance, so I instead just started conquering centers of trade and increasing mercantilism all the way to the top to get my merchants to the top of that. of my own ones. But Spain, although it starts off kind of big, usually big countries are not as good in trading. Um, uh, but you can still play the trading game as Castile, and where it's at is good, I suppose. -1, but basically all the way to free trade gives your merchant costs subtracted by -25. Compete chance, you can compete in foreign centers trade much more effectively, but this decreases your national spy defense, and your merchants will have a harder time competing in your own centers of trade, -30% for that. So it really depends. Actually, I'd go more free trade for Spain, at least at the beginning of the game. Offensive, defensive, really up to you again. Going all the way offensive gives you the advantage of higher morale. Like if you're going to be attacking all the time, your artillery is going to cost more, and your fort defense is going to decrease. Like people will be able to capture your places much faster, while defensive is the exact opposite. You have greater defense, but your morale of your armies decreases. At the very beginning of the game, kind of being a bit more on the defensive side is good, but later on, maybe if you want to be more offensive, you're fighting a lot and no one can really challenge you, it's better to be on the offensive, because that plus 0.1 morale is quite good. And the leader shock, 1.25 is a lot for leader shock. That really helps you get good leaders. So I would say I'd perhaps increase it by 1 maybe. So my morale of my armies wasn't that bad. If you remember over here, morale of armies, offensive versus defensive, -0.04. That's where it's coming from. Land versus naval, again, if I'm playing as Muscovy, I should be all the way at 100% land, because I don't care about my big ships and about global tariffs and whatnot. But because I know I'm going to be Spain, I'm going to create Spain, I'm going to want to go and travel around the world, I'm going to want to have a balance here between naval and land. For the meantime, I'm going to be fighting Granada right now. I'm going to be fighting Aragon, maybe perhaps even France, maybe Morocco, Algiers. So land is definitely very important. In fact, maybe I would even put that to +1. Because right now 0 means you're not getting any positives or negatives. But naval helps you later on with colonist costs. It can help you decrease the colonists, your morale of navies, and the costs of big ships. Right now I'm not going to be building more ships, so that's fine, but I am going to be building a much larger army. So you see infantry cost for land and cavalry cost subtracted by 25. And also national manpower and land force limits, the more land you go, is increased dramatically. So that's good for land. And if, obviously when you're playing as Muscovy and you don't have any ships, it should be all the way at land. Playing as the Ottomans, for example, you might want to have it a bit to more to land because of the less of the influence of naval. It's really up to you and your situation. Quality versus quantity. This is of your troops. Quality. So like, do you want to have quality troops? It's going to cost you more to maintain. You're going to have better discipline. See, infantry cost is +12.5, and national manpower is decreased. Or do you want to have a very large army, but but worse? Like discipline is going to be worse, but you're going to be able to build troops faster. You're going to be able to reinforce faster. Reinforce is basically like when one of your 1,000 man armies get damaged to like 900, it'll slowly replenish back up to 1,000. So if I'm all the way at quantity, this will increase. So that's quantity. If I'm playing as Muscovy and my land technology is not going to be as strong as Sweden, for example, who might become a later rival of mine, having mine at quantity and being able to make massive armies to destroy their qualitative armies is a method you can do. Usually playing as a Muslim power, because your land technology will soon be outpaced by the West. Having large quantity is helpful. Really depends. The Ottomans get pretty good units actually until like until like 1650 or so, and then it starts decreasing. But so it really depends on the game you want. Castile, I'm going to focus more on quality rather than quantity, because I'm rich enough, I have the money to be able to spend on that type of quality, and I don't mind spending a little bit more. Right now I'm only paying 2.5 plus. And I also have a lot of manpower, so it won't be a problem. Okay, so that's government. So this is the very big stuff. Two more things about domestic policies. As I was reading here, for feudal monarchy, years between policy change 11.4. I can only choose one of these, and I can only move them in either direction once every 11.4 years. Okay, so choose wisely, basically. These red arrows, this means that with my current government type of feudal monarchy, if I go over this red limit, I will start getting very nasty events. If I go 1 over, nothing's really going to happen. I think it might affect your stability a little bit, but nothing's really going to happen. But if you go 2 over, like 2 times, like if I set this to -2, for example, I'm going to start getting some really nasty events, rebels, things like that. So make sure it's always before that. And later on, as you get more advanced government types, these will change accordingly. And depending on your playing type, like if I was a merchant republic, I'm not going to be able to do too much mercantilism, so a little red thing will pop up here, making sure that I stay more free trade. Things like that. So basically, this is what feudal monarchy. So not too centralized. You're still going to be supporting the aristocracy, and you cannot give your subjects too much freedom. So that's basically what feudal monarchy is. If I had despotic monarchy, it'd be even less, because it's a more regressive form of government. Although we do get the infamy limit plus 10. That's what you really want. So that's it. For the purposes of this game, I'm going to choose... Usually you should always try to centralize first. If you hover over these, though... Okay, here. So the following may happen if we go in this direction. Okay? So 33% chance of country destabilized. I get -1 stability. Large revolts, which is bad. Or local pretender rises. Local pretender is like a claimant to your throne, basically. So it's only bad stuff, because it's only good on that direction. Decentralization, though, if you want to decentralize, you'll get a local tax. You have either a local tax increase, more local recruiting, or stability increase. So it's only good stuff, but that's because you're going in a worse direction. It's more difficult to centralize than it is to decentralize. And then it really depends. So aristocracy, if I go my aristocracy, I might lose stability. The burghers might rise. The burghers were the middle class of medieval Europe. Like the merchants, basically, you could say, the people that were accumulating in large cities over time. So they might rise up, or the nobility, or more nobility in the army, which is a good thing. I think it's a manpower event. So you have 2 bad things and 1 good thing. So you can hover around them. Just do it what you feel is best. Be wary of the large army you might get from centralizing. But we have a strong enough army, I think. But for now, I'm going to move in the direction of yeah. Yeah. I'm going to actually move in the direction. I'm going to go more... I was going to say we'll go more offensive, but that plus 10 fort defense is very good. And also we want to be able to siege places easier. Also, not only defending your provinces, you can also besiege provinces easier with more defensive. So that's good. I think it's at. We're already narrow-minded enough. I'm going to go more aristocratic. Someone's saying I should go offensive. You won't get attacked much in the start. And then another guy is saying innovative. The reason why I don't want to go innovative is because I want to curry up the papal. I don't actually want to become part of the Curia. Remember, if I'm too innovative, You see here yearly changes of papal influence, innovative versus narrow-minded. So I'm getting +6 because I'm more narrow-minded.